Hello, we're excited to have you join us for a brand new series of 30-minute product knowledge sessions hosted by Dynamo Software's product and business teams. These exclusive sessions are all about giving you and your team valuable insights, practical tips, and a hands-on look at Dynamo's key capabilities and platform modules. Each session is tailored to focus on the software modules that matter most to your firm so you can get the most out of your Dynamo platform. It's a great opportunity to dive deeper, learn best practices, and really maximize the value of the tools at your fingertips. Today's session is focused on maximizing transparency and look-through reporting with HoldingsInsight. My name is Donna Parent, and joining us in leading today's session is Todd Burns. Todd is going to take you through a hands-on demonstration that will hopefully inspire you to want to learn even more. Today's knowledge journey begins now as Todd will show you how to unlock the full potential of your investment strategy with our HoldingsInsight module. Todd, would you like to discuss the key areas you'll be covering today?
I would love to, Donna. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. I am Todd Burns. I'm looking forward to running through a demo today of Dynamo's functionality related to HoldingsInsight. Before I jump into the demo, I thought it might be helpful to talk about one, why the ability to look into the underlying holdings of the funds you invest in are so important. And then two, how does Dynamo's data automation team go about getting and populating the underlying holdings into Dynamo? So let's start with why would anyone need or want to analyze underlying holdings? I'll just repeat back what the clients I have worked with have told me, that knowing what their fund managers are investing in is critical because it directly impacts their portfolio's risks and returns. The first thing clients usually tell me is they are looking to get a better understanding of what is driving a fund's performance. They want to know, are the fund's returns a result of one or two great investments, or is it more the result of many good deals? Fund level exposure views can help provide this detail. The second area clients usually tell me is about getting a good handle on risk and exposure analysis. Clients tell me they want to know if they are exposed to additional risk by being over-concentrated in a particular sector or region. They also want to know if they could potentially be overexposed to a single holding. Investor account level exposure views can provide these details. The last area that clients talk to me about regularly is related to alignment and compliance. By analyzing Dynamo's Exposure Hub, historical holdings valuations, and Value Bridge, HoldingsInsight clients are able to better assess risk, check for style drift, and verify accurate valuations. I hope this provides a little insight into how clients gain value in having access to all that HoldingsInsight offers. Now on to how does this all work? We will start with the mechanics of the operations and then move on to the actual demo. If we look at this slide, we have a visual of the process. Documents that have been collected then have data extracted using AI, templates, and human intervention to validate the underlying holdings, enhance the data, and validate the results. Upon successful completion of that process, the data is ingested into Dynamo, where users can then view the results through exposure hubs, tabs at multiple entity levels, and several reporting tools. All right, let's jump into the demo. I have now logged on to Dynamo. Within Dynamo, there are 3+ levels or entities that Dynamo can report HoldingsInsight details. 1, the individual security holding level, 2, the fund level, and 3, the overall investor account portfolio level. There is also an exposure hub that also provides additional insight into your underlying holdings. Let's start at the investor account level. To access an investor account, Dynamo does require a gold license, aka portfolio management. If you are not a gold user, this is what an investor account looks like. I'm going to use Dynamo long-term pool to demonstrate exposures and some other portfolio management capabilities. First, we come to the profile tab. At the profile tab, I have all kinds of information about my portfolio. I have the investor value. I have total contributions and distributions to date. It tells me what date that was last totaled, what my primary benchmark is, and below I can see charts showing me how the fund has performed versus the benchmark. The charts are all interactive, so I can hover over, focus on just my benchmark. I can focus just on the portfolio. If I scroll across to the right, we have other information available as well. I always like to kind of present Dynamo at portfolio management as a way to look at the past, the present, and the future. The past is going to incorporate all of my research related items, all of my commitments, historical transactions and balances, basically everything that has occurred to get us to the point where we currently are. The current analysis looks at my current portfolio and allows me to do all kinds of performance calculations, look at targets, see my portfolio, see my transactions, be able to see things like liquidity. And then the future is being able to take my portfolio and do all kinds of what if analysis, be able to put in different scenarios, be able to put in hypothetical transactions, run my cash flow models for future cash flows, etc. So Dynamo portfolio management allows to bring that all together. Coming back here to the left, I have more details on latest performance. We use DAX grids that will quickly render the overall portfolio return numbers. I can also see the sub-asset classes, the asset classes, be able to drill down through each to see how each group has performed, and then down to the individual position as well. So I can see here how Adage Capital, what the current value is and how it has returned. I also can see historical performance. I can zoom in just on my private markets. So here I bring up all of my private market investments. I can see the total, seeing what my total commitment, my unfunded commitment, contributions, distributions, and some of the multiples. I can drill down through each of the sub-asset classes here. So I can come in and see buyouts, and then down to the fund level to see exactly what my commitment is, how much is unfunded, and other details related to that. Dynamo has the ability to look at targets, so I can see what our targets are and what the current portfolio looks like and how that has changed over time. And then I can come in and see my overall portfolio. So I can come in and see what I'm invested in. I can see each fund class. I can see sub-asset classes, the value, contributions, distributions, commitment, etc. I can see all of my historical balances and transactions. And then if I keep moving over to the right, we get into where HoldingsInsight now comes into play. This rounds everything off by being able to see not only what I'm invested in, but what my true exposure is for better transparency. By clicking on the exposures tab, this tab is going to render. If you've used Power BI before, you'll see that we'll have options at the top to filter through what date ranges and how we want data presented. So with the filter button here, I can come in and choose what date ranges I want to look at my exposures, as well as other information as to gross, net, long, or short, and other variables here. Make your selections, come back here. If I want to see bar charts instead of pie charts, I can also make that change at the cogwheel. All right, so in this case, the very top, I get a summary of what I'm invested in. I can see that I am invested in 49 different funds, which represents 262 different holdings and 317 securities. And over here, I can see my top 10 holdings, what percentage that represents. Below that, I can see further details looking at the exposure into different sectors, regions, currency, and with the drop down I can come in and maybe I want to look at market cap, so you can change that around as well. The charts here are interactive, so if I hover over, I can see that I have exposure to consumer discretionary. I can see the total value and the percentage that represents of my portfolio, and I can do that for region and currency as well. If I'd like to zoom this out, I can make this a full screen. I can go back. I can also drill down from here as well. So if I want to see kind of the industries, I could actually come in here and click on this, and I can drill down to the details here, and I can always move back and forth between that. If I'd like more details, I can just click on See Details. And this will open up another report that now gives me more details. At the top, I get a summary of what I'm looking at, but here I get now a breakdown of what kind of exposure I'm getting to the different sectors. I can see consumer discretionary, financials. These are the industries that represents. And then down here, just below that, I see a further graph that shows me each individual holding within that industry, within that sector. It's all the boxes. You'll notice there's some bigger boxes. They all represent, the bigger the box, the more that exposure that you have. If I hover over that, I can see a historical view of how those exposures to GHD media have changed. If I come back up here, if you've used Power BI reports, they're interactive. You can hover over them. If I click on a particular sector here, it'll automatically filter through. These are the industries that are representative of consumer discretionary, and now I'm just looking at the holdings of consumer discretionary. If I'd like to go back, I can click on that. I'm right back to where I was. So that's kind of from a visual standpoint. Below that, a lot of people want to know what were my exposures at the beginning of the period, what are they at the end of the period. So we have kind of more of a matrix style view that shows me I can come in here and look at it by sector, and then broken out within sector each industry, and then I can drill down to the underlying holding. So I'd be able to see what kind of activity has happened during that time period I selected for GHD media. I might want to instead look at it from the investor entity level. So here I can see each investing entity. I can sort and group this any way I want. But in here, I can now scroll down and maybe look at Berkshire Fund 9. What kind of exposure is Berkshire 9 providing us? Here's the total. And if I drill down on Berkshire Fund 9, the next area will then show me kind of what we were looking at before, the sectors and the industries, and I can continue to drill down to the individual security within those sectors and industries. So this is the first level of looking at exposures. It's looking at it from an investor account level. It's looking at everything that we are invested in, the exposures that we're getting from each of the funds that we're investing, and rolling it up to the overall portfolio. The next thing is clients tell me that they want to now be able to go in and look at the details of what kind of exposure they're getting from an individual fund that they're investing in. So if I come back to the portfolio tab here, I can scroll down and I can see that I'm invested in Berkshire Fund 9. From here, I can double click and it'll take me to the entity page, which is a fund. So here I'm invested in, I can see here I'm invested in Berkshire Fund 9. I've got all kinds of information about the fund. Similar to the investor account level, I have access to performance. How has Berkshire Fund 9 performed? I can go in and see how it compares to its benchmark. I can go in and see, all my historical cash flows and transactions and balances as I'm invested in Berkshire Fund 9. But today we're focusing on HoldingsInsight. So I'm going to come now over to the exposures tab here. And very similar to what we were just looking at the investor account level, I'm going to have that same chart display what my exposures by investing into Berkshire Fund 9 looks like. So with Berkshire Fund 9, they are invested in 16 holdings and 17 securities. And here is the percentage that the top 10 holdings represents. Just like before, I can do all the things with the charts and graphs of popping it out, drilling down, etc. And I can also come in here to the details and see exactly what holdings are Berkshire Fund 9 invested in. At the top, I see here a breakdown of their exposure to the different sectors. So consumer discretionary, information technology. Here are the different industries represented by those sectors. And then here are the actual securities that Berkshire Fund 9 is investing in. I can see the biggest holding here is TreeQuote with exposure of 21.22 million. I can see how that has changed over time. I can see which sector and industry, and I can hover over any one of those holdings to get that same data. If I scroll down to the bottom, similarly, I have matrix style view of what we looked at before, where I can come in and choose that I want to see this by sector, And then within sector, I can see industry, and then drill down to the holding within that particular industry. In this case, here is tree quote, showing me the beginning value, anything that changed during the period, and what percentage it represents at the end of the period. Okay. From there, I'm going to click on to the value bridge. The value bridge kind of tells me, how did I get from the value of the beginning of a period to the value at the end of the period? So this particular chart will show us that. One, just like before, the filter allows us to choose what time periods that we want to analyze, and then how do we want it presented. The first section here then will go to the beginning value and show me what my investment is, $65,296,000. I can see that Berkshire had additional costs of investments made. They had some market write-ups and write-downs. They had a investment that was sold, and it reconciles now to the ending value. If I come to the middle here, I can see those individual holdings, and then down at the bottom, it gives me those details. Here are all of the what they are investing in, and I can see the beginning value of that time period. I can see that they did make some additional investments. There were market write-ups and write-downs, and then it ties out to the ending value. The thing that jumps out to me right here is I can see that their investment in Huddler had a very, very large write-up. So here's where we can start to do some really detailed analysis into the underlying holdings to help understand the performance that Berkshire Fund 9 is giving us, to kind of know if it's spread across multiple holdings or if it's, in this case, one really good change in market value. Just to kind of back up just to the left of exposures, just kind of a different view, shows me all of the underlying positions, more of a matrix style. I can see the underlying holdings along with some of the metadata. I see the current value of that investment. I can see things like country and region and sector and industry, and I can choose different fields to present here as well. Below that, I can see portfolio holdings valuation. This allows me to see each of those holdings, but on a historical basis. I can drill down and see period by period how that particular investment may have changed over time. All right, from here, I want to go to the next level. I want to continue to drive down to get more information about what's driving our exposures, what's driving the returns of the funds we're investing in. Here I can see that I'm invested in GHD Media Private Equity. The issuer is GHD Media. I've got some of the details here, but I want more information. So I have the ability to just click on this, and it will take me to GHD Media, where I first come to the profile. I've got all kinds of information about the issuer. I can see that they actually have issued 3 different securities, which I'll come back to in a second, and we'll drill down to the individual security. But while we're here, there's a couple things I can see. One, if I go to financials, I can see how this particular issuer has performed. I can see things like revenue and EBITDA, our fields that HoldingsInsight extracted. I have a couple custom fields that HoldingsInsight has extracted as well. I can see things like operating expenses, operating income. I can see revenue. I can see trends in the revenue. I can see EBITDA. So a lot of information at the issuer level. And then if I click on exposure analysis, this lets me know of my investments, all the different funds that I'm invested in. I want to know who is investing in GHD Media so I can get an idea of what the total exposure I have to GHD Media. So here I get a chart showing me a breakdown of that I'm in. Dynamo retirement pool is invested, Dynamo long-term pool is invested, the short-term pool is invested. I can come in here and see all of the different funds. I can see how that has changed over time. Down below, I can see historical by security. And then here are the details. I can see that Berkshire Fund 9, here it is, here's our investment. I'd be able to see the start and end periods and changes to that. So I got all kinds of details at that investor account level, the fund level. I drill down to the issuer, and I've got financials and exposure level there. From here, I want to go to a particular security. So in this case, I was wondering about GHD Media. I can double click on this and it brings me to the entity for a security. I first launch at the profile page where I've got all kinds of metadata that HoldingsInsight has provided. I can see the security type, I can see the asset class category, I can see stock symbols and QSIPs and other information, market cap, etc. I can see who the investors and ownership are. I can drill down over here to see my historical values of my investment, the cost basis, unrealized gain loss, etc. If I scroll up to the top, I can also see historical transactions that Berkshire Fund 9 and other funds. I can group this by entity or transaction type, but here I can see all the different transactions that Berkshire Fund 9 has over time into GHD Media. I also can come in and see price histories. The whole idea here is to be able to confirm the valuations of the holdings that your fund's managers are investing in that particular fund to give you the information that I discussed earlier. Okay. All right, the next, I talked about the exposure hub. So over here on the left, we have hubs that are going to take all the information that we've been going through, portfolio level information. I want to be able to see, for instance, how has my portfolio performed? I can drill down into performance and benchmarking. In this case, we're going to focus on the exposure tab. And here I have similar information, but very quickly I can toggle between, do I want to see sector from this type of view? So we use DAX grids, renders the data very quickly. That allows me to drill down through the different sectors and subsectors down to the underlying holdings and see what kind of exposure, percentages, etc. I can quickly jump to region, see the similar information, but now broken out by region. We've got the value bridge, which we covered the exposure report, and I can also see that on a historical basis. So these are all the things that HoldingsInsight can provide, along with other tools that portfolio management provides. There's other hubs over here to be able to show you the attribution, risk, liquidity projections, etc. Also tying in all the research. Again, the whole idea of HoldingsInsight is to provide greater granularity and transparency into your investments. Portfolio management brings all the past, present, and future to tie all of your analysis into one single location. Well, thank you for your time today. Hope you got a lot out of this presentation. If there's anything I can help with, please let me know.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Todd, for such an insightful demo. Really appreciate the walkthrough there. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about some handouts that we have available for everyone. You can download these within the session here. We have our HoldingsInsight brochure and also a new white paper, Scaling for Success. This is a great paper for you to take a look at that will really give you even more of an inside view of Dynamo version 3.0 and how you can grow without compromise. So in addition to that, Todd, we do have a number of questions that have come through. What we will do is have the dedicated account managers or client success managers reach out to folks individually. If you are an existing client, we will get an outreach as well. And we will make sure that we get you those answers that you're looking for so that we can continue the conversation with you. In addition, we will be selecting a winner of our exclusive Dynamo swag box. Again, thank you for attending today's session. And after the session, the winner will be selected and we will reach out to you to get your address and so that we can get the swag box delivered to you as soon as possible. And again, as we wrap up, there will be a short survey that does appear. We would appreciate any and all feedback that you would be willing to provide us so that we can continue to improve the Dynamo product knowledge sessions. Thanks again for everyone's participation today and interest. And thanks again, Todd, for showing us such an insightful demo. We appreciate everybody's time. Thanks again.